if you're a morning routine person or an evening routine, just practicing it like a little kind of array of mobility and balance exercises could be a huge enricher of kind of your healthy longevity.
Well, hello, folks. Today I'm here with the wonderful Benjamin Richardson, who I've met recently. I had a really interesting conversation, and I'm sure that you're going to love him. So thanks for joining me today, Benjamin.
Adam, it's a pleasure.
Now, you're a nutritional therapist. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I really doubt it's a term which well, anyone knows that there is such a thing as a nutritional therapist, and then the next thing will be, okay, I now know there's a thing, what is it? So, nutritional therapist is a person who works with nutrition and lifestyle medicine, and this includes, diet, lifestyle, supplementation, sometimes use of functional testing, and works with a client one-on-one to take whatever their health goals are. Could be trying to understand and correct a long-term chronic health issue, could be to obtain a positive, like improve your healthy lifespan, and develops for them basically a plan of how they're going to get there. What are they going to do? What are the interventions? And then helps them actually implement that plan through coaching and being an accountability partner and educating them when they welcome it. So it's a very kind of intimate, close relationship, the likes of which most people have not experienced in their interactions with medical professionals or healthcare professionals. And it's why therapist is part of the title, even though that might sometimes actually put off some people that would otherwise welcome the help that they can get that way.
Brilliant. And what sort of symptoms do people come to you with?
Yeah, I'd say if I can try and answer that question via the perspective of who is most motivated to seek out complementary medicine help, then it's very often people that do have kind of chronic, long-term, otherwise kind of undiagnosed or poorly diagnosed conditions, for which kind of mainstream medicine, which I have nothing but respect and admiration for in a lot of ways, hasn't otherwise been able to help them with. So, I mean, some of the common ones would be anyone would say irritable bowel syndrome or chronic fatigue syndrome or maybe metabolic syndrome. And I mean, I love to kind of just put in the anecdote that any time that the word syndrome is in your diagnosis, what it's code for is, hey, you've got a cluster of symptoms and we don't know what's causing them. And that's where sometimes, medicine ends. And so what kind of a nutritional therapist can do is say, well, okay, well, actually, let's go and look for what are the contributory root causes to these and see, what are the levers we can pull on? What are the systems which are impacting upon these causes? What can we actually do to change this outcome for you? So, I mean, the symptoms you mean, like, yeah, I mean, digestion, assimilation issues, kind of brain fog, energy issues, body composition, skin rashes and manifestations. So very often it's like it's almost misdirecting because the underlying cause could be in the digestion assimilation, but then it shows up, let's say, as eczema, um, which is where again this really kind of tight, close relationship with a lot of investigation, a lot of kind of detail, a lot of discussion, really, really is a great kind of modality for digging into and helping the person.
Interesting. And tell us a little bit about what got you interested in here. What was your journey into nutrition?
So yeah, I'm trying to say, am I? What's the story? I mean, my real background. I mean, my undergrad was I studied management, and then I went into a human resources career and did a master's in HR and worked for Shell, the oil and gas company, for 20 years. But increasingly, I was kind of getting fascinated by the field of N equals one or experimentation, where you basically just say, let's change a variable and try and control other variables and see what the outcome is health-wise. I got fascinated by quantified self, which was popularized, I think, by Tim Ferriss, who's now retired. He's done really well. The quantified self is literally just pick a goal, which could be, let's say, I want to lose body fat. You pick an intervention, which is, okay, I'm going to walk an extra 30 minutes a day. Pick a method of tracking your progress towards the goal, which could be, I'm going to get myself a pair of body composition scales and step on them every morning. And then you basically just use those three things, the goal, the intervention, the tracking, to say, well, is the tracking telling me that I'm making progress towards my goal? So I was getting really fascinated by this stuff. I was getting really fascinated by biohacking, which as a term is kind of fallen out of favor. It's now been replaced by things like, biooptimization and, just health span optimization. Because hacking implies that you can hack, that you understand the system well enough to do that, and we probably don't. But put these things together, and I was getting more and more frustrated that I really want to spend more time in this environment, understanding how can you unlock your kind of best possible health, but I was working oil and gas. I also realized I was kind of dangerous in the sense that although I was spending a lot of my time kind of reading and writing about this stuff and talking about it, if I was presented with like two confident, well presented arguments, which are otherwise kind of completely contradictory. So let's say I read the China study, which I did, which basically argues that the vegan diet is the world's healthiest possible diet. Then let's say you read something like the Carnivore Code, which I did, which is basically the opposite. It's like, right, it's advocating that the carnivore diet is the best possible diet. And when the people advocating that, can talk a little bit of science and like cherry pick whatever evidence they want, they can still be really, really convincing. So I realized that, oh gosh, I had no ability to differentiate enough to be able to tell, which of these is true or false, or are they both false, which they are. So I took the opportunity at the beginning of the pandemic to take severance from oil and gas and use that as my launching pad to go and study and actually get an education in nutritional therapy and then begin practice so that I'm safe and effective rather than dangerous. And then I'm also doing something which I really love doing, even though I'm getting, let's say, paid 10 times less than I would have been. It's still something which is a real pleasure. I'm just happy to do it.
So bring that to life for us, Benjamin. How did it impact your health and well-being and energy levels? What were the changes that you had to make through studying the stuff that you did?
Yeah, I mean, I was already on the kind of the leading edge probably of if there is if the, a little bit like say an elite athlete, which I mean I'm on the cusp of being, although I don't compete. Give an elite athlete something which they can do to improve their health and performance, and they just do it. So there isn't like, well, I'll try and get round to that, or it's on a list of 10 things. It's just that they just implement it. So if we talk about dietary practices, if we talk about supplementation, if we talk about use of regular functional testing to provide insights which are novel, which you can act on, if we talk about everything you do in lifestyle, like looking at your sleep opportunity optimization, looking at stress mitigation and relaxation, stimulating parasympathetic, using breath work, looking at your environment to see where are you exposed from toxins and how can you mitigate that, and then how can you support natural detoxification. If I'm not doing it and I learned a new thing, I would do that tomorrow. Well, no, actually, Adam, I would do it today. So, I mean, I realize I'm not like a lot of people in that regard, but it's more a case of what I learned the last couple of weeks, which I do differently now, as opposed to what did I change during my study. The study was really kind of cementing a lot of things which I had some awareness of, and it was converting that awareness into knowledge and then skills that I could then, help others apply the same.
So bring that alive then, alive for us then, for simpletons like myself. So what's the three things that you've added to your life that have made the biggest difference since
Okay.
studying this?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Well, okay, so I've certainly introduced one additional exercise modality. So I'd say if you're going to like have an exercise routine or protocol for maximizing your health span, distinct from pursuing a specific sport, you'd have some strength work to develop your bone and muscle. You'd have some VO2 max stimulating work for your maximum oxygen throughput. You'd have some
I'm going
endurance
to
work.
pause you there, Benjamin. What does that mean?
Which one?
VO2 something.
Oh, sorry.
I've got no
Yeah.
idea what that is.
Good, thanks. So VO2 max, it basically refers to the maximum amount of oxygen that you can process at any one time to use oxygen for energy. So if you were going to do something like a very, very short sprint up the stairs, running for your bus or your Uber, etc., very short space of time, very intense. You'd be working at basically your oxygen, your maximum VO2, or even beyond it temporarily. Then you go into oxygen debt. So it kind of determines how intensely can you exercise or exert activity for a very short period of time.
I mean, that's really what I'm looking for, the simple terms of what it is that you're doing here. So you think it's important that people go 100% for a certain period of the day.
Um,
That's important for your energy levels, is it?
yeah, well, it's important for your ability to actually, exert kind of maximal effort for very short bursts of time. And it's something which, if you do not deliberately train it, you do lose it over time, just like you would lose muscle over time, like you would lose bone density over time. Hence, there's a good argument to say there's a lot of advocates, for example, for walking, and walking's great. but it's very low intensity, and you wouldn't therefore get the additional benefits of very intense training like VO2 max emphasizing training if you didn't incorporate some of that into your protocol.
And how does that manifest? So, I mean, for someone like myself, 50 plus, is it important that I go sprinting and do a few shuttle runs or run up and down the stairs or pump out, 50 press ups
Yeah.
if I can in a short bit? I mean, just bring that to life as to, the practicalities from a well-being nutritional point of view. What does the lay person need to add to their daily routine to really up their nutritional game?
Yeah, although I'll clarify, this is probably not so much nutrition. This is more lifestyle, but
Yeah.
nutrition and lifestyle medicine is kind of what I do. Well, yeah. So if we start off with number one, have some kind of muscle and strength development activity within your kind of weekly routine. The kind of obvious option is being in a gym, but there are other options like doing calisthenics and body weight direct exercise at home. So that's number one. Then we come on to the VO2 max, where yeah, it's very so you gave examples. However, just for safety, I'd say if you are not regularly sprinting, do not go outside and sprint. You will tear something. You will probably write complaints to you, Adam, or me, Benjamin, and you won't listen to the podcast anymore. So don't do that. But you can build up the intensity gradually, and ideally, really to like engage a professional like a personal trainer to ease you into this. And there's a lot you can like learn online. But you named it, and probably a lot of us might remember, in school gym classes, if we can cast our minds back, you probably did something like shuttle runs where like there's a famous thing called a beep test, where you basically just trying to do like a 20-meter run. Initially in something like 12 seconds, then it's 11, then 10, and 9. So it just reduces. If you do that, that's actually a VO2 training kind of protocol. So you could literally do that, and it's testing you and it's training you at the same time. So yeah, but you could also do this in the gym. So if you get on, say, an elliptical trainer or a stationary bike, which is a lot safer because you're not impacting the surface of something with your bones and joints, then you can go very, very fast. And we're literally talking about for VO2 max. I mean, the world's most robust protocol for developing VO2 max is something called, I'm going to explain it, something called the Norwegian 4x4, which is literally where you engage in 4 minutes of exercise as intensely as you can exercise for 4 minutes. So this isn't an all-out sprint. It's just the maximal effort that you can sustain for 4 minutes. Takes a bit of practice to figure out what that is. Then you do some very light, gentle recovery for 3 minutes. And then you just repeat that 4 times. So that would be an approach to VO2 max training. Then on top of that, ideally you have some endurance training. So just like this can be just brisk walking. I think what's become a little bit more popular recently, if you want to ruin the walk, is wear like a loaded backpack. We call it rucking, which just makes the walk a little bit more difficult. You'll be a little bit more out of breath. You get a little bit more bone density stimulation. So this would be kind of exercise component number three. Number four, number five, and number five is what I added in. So number four is something for balance, mobility, and stability. Could be Pilates, could be yoga, could be just basic balance work. There's a really fun one. Again, don't do this if you're outside, but it's a really fun one that I love, and which is really strongly linked to actually kind of cognitive reserve, or basically developing or just like supporting kind of healthy brain and healthy cognition, which is how long can you stand on one leg with your eyes closed? I'm tempted to do this now, except I might fall over. So there's literally a relationship between how long you can do this, and you can like alternate between the legs. So you're just literally standing on one leg initially with your eyes open, and then do it with your eyes closed. The longer you can do that, the reason it's actually very supportive of brain health is that to do that, it's enormously demanding because your brain can't rely on visual input. It's got to develop new or reinforce the neuromuscular connections. And that is your brain learning, which is magnificent when you think about it, just by standing on one leg with your eyes closed. But the number
So I
five,
think
which
from a
I,
practical, just to break this down, Benjamin, because I think if people are watching this for the first time, thinking, "What little intervention can I make?" It might be overwhelmed if there's too
yeah.
much coming at them. So one practical thing, what I'm hearing here is see how long you could stand on one leg. I mean, that's something that anyone at home could,
Mhm.
without expensive equipment or without having to go to a gym. I mean, that's something they could
Yeah.
just get up and and now. So I think that's the sort of practicality just to to test things or to get things moving in a better direction. That's a really interesting exercise that you point out there, especially the thing where you're closing your eyes as well. Because I don't think
Hmm.
I've never tested. I can't remember if I've ever tested. I'm going to be curious to come off here and see how long I last. Like, so that's actually quite an interesting intervention that people don't really think about. Retraining our brain and balance. I mean, that's not something that I would have traditionally associated with well-being, but obviously now that you mention it, it does sort of make perfect sense.
It's huge element, and I think it's also one which even people that are really keen exercises already, very often they're not doing anything for their balance, mobility, and stability. And as we kind of want to age healthily, one of the kind of main risks that we face is it slips, trips, and falls. And then we break a bone, and then we lose functionality, or we spend time in hospital, then we lose muscle mass. And, there's a cascade of these kind of negatives. So actually spending a little bit of time each day could be part of a morning routine if you're a morning routine person or an evening routine, just practicing it like a little kind of array of mobility and balance exercises could be a huge enricher of kind of your healthy longevity
But
and
it's
free. Yeah.
interesting. I mean, that's an interesting thing. So, I mean, a practical thing that anyone can do from watching this video, just get up and see how long you can last standing on one leg and then close your
Yeah.
eyes and try it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably not too close to anything that if you fall, you might
Well,
hang
that's a good intervention there, Adam. Actually, yeah, it's a good safety
do it
intervention.
next to a wall. Oh, no,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, you might start out by, yeah, being in a safe place and having cushions around you. Yeah.
yeah. Don't want anyone getting on the comments here saying I tried
Well, this
that.
is it.
I've
Safety
ended
first.
up in
Safety first.
A&E.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I think, for me, having not tried that, I mean, I think that sounds easy, but I'm sure it won't be because
Yeah,
I've
no, it
never
really isn't.
practiced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one more tip. I'd say to have your kind of best chance of doing this and actually to really develop the neuromuscular connection, it is kind of really necessary, or at least ideal, so that your feet can make contact with the ground. Because if you're wearing shoes, your toes, the parts of your foot won't have the opportunity to kind of feel where they're at and send the signal to your brain so you can adjust. So do this barefoot, or at least in socks, so that you can actually make a connection with your feet, which you might not have a relationship with right now. Make a relationship with your feet is basically the message here.
Well, that ties in with my world as well because grounding is a huge part of working with
Mm.
energy, and there's nothing beats ground. You can do it yourself energetically, but nothing beats walking around on the lawn in bare feet. So I think that's where our worlds cross over. The bare feet thing that really resonates.
Kind of the ideal
Having
time to
that
do it,
connection.
really, is if you're going to be doing grounding anyway, just spend some time of that on one leg with your eyes closed. Yeah.
For sure. I find the soft part of the garden when I close my eyes. That's brilliant. And so, who is your target audience? Who's the main people that come to work with you? Because it feels like it might be elite athletes from what you're telling
Well,
me here. I
I
mean,
kind of
I'm
had
sure they
like
probably are your target, but I mean, who generally do you work with,
I
Benjamin?
certainly love to work with them, but I really have two kind of distinctly different kind of kind of client profiles. And one is the kind of people that I described that have those kind of long-term chronic health issues, or that might be it might be short, but still they haven't found any solution to them. People with things like, irritable bowel syndrome, chronic fatigue syndrome, brain fog. It might not have a name yet, or it could also be people that have something like pre-diabetes or diabetes type 2, which is entirely reversible through diet and lifestyle if you start doing that early enough. So it could be people with like, those health complaints that just want to get rid of the problem and they want someone to help them get rid of the problem. So that's kind of one group. But the other group is what you just said, is people that actually maybe they don't have those issues, but they want to be more competitive in their sport. They want to, compete at a national level. Or they just want to enjoy being really, really good at something. It could be tennis, could be, kind of swimming, could be any martial arts, which I'm into as well. So, I mean, that's the second group. And however, even that second group, at least the ones I've worked with, they've often, they might have, say, their sports nutrition dialed in. And sports nutrition refers to things like your calorie intake to match with your activity, your macronutrients, protein, carbs, fat. your meal timing. So it deals with all that, but they often don't have their functional nutrition dialed in, which is things like how you're eating and what you're eating and when you're eating, supporting your digestion and absorption. How is it giving you an anti-inflammatory kind of dietary pattern, which helps damp down the inflammation, which you're going to get a lot of when you're engaged in demanding sports. So they might have one part of their approach really programmed in very well, but they often have other things which are really holding them back, which I can then help them with and really improve their performance.
That's interesting. So we've got the intensity thing, we've got the standing on one leg. Is there any other practical thing that you can give people that are watching this video that think, I don't want to go to the gym, I'm not ready to
Yeah.
to go out sprinting yet? Is there anything practically I can do just to stack things in my favor? Maybe for people that aren't looking to be elite athletes, but are looking to sort of start moving their health and well-being in a better direction. What practical things can you give us to take out of this to get
Yeah,
going right now?
probably too many, so you have to hold me back. But the one that I didn't get to from the question of what a new thing that I started doing through my study was just doing regular breath work, and from two kind of angles. One is use of control and thought about the breath can be used to guide you into a state which is much more enabling of rest and digestion, where we simulate something called the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest kind of branch of the autonomic nervous system. And this can be through a simple practice like box breathing, which is basically where you equalize the in breath, hold, and out breath. So if let's say 4 seconds breathing in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds breathing out, 4 seconds hold. So box breathing, or even 4-7-8, which is basically where you'd kind of be breathing in for 4 seconds, hold for seven if you can, and then breathe out for eight. You're elongating the out breath. And during the out breath, there's a message sent to your parasympathetic nervous system. It basically stimulates parasympathetic, say, rest. So when you elongate the out breath, you're enabling yourself to rest. Ideal thing to do, for example, before a meal, so you can kind of guide yourself into a state where you're more relaxed and more ready to actually digest and absorb the meal. But it can also be used to enhance, athletic activity. And like so in yoga, there's something called a fire breath, where you're kind of breathing in and out very, very rapidly, which is very, very stimulating. It's the opposite of the first thing that I just described. So you can use that, and you can practice doing this. And just like practicing, lifting a weight, when you practice breath work daily, it then becomes available as a resource for you when you need it. Meaning, when you're stressed out and you just had an argument with your spouse or your boss, and you just need some way to calm down, then if you practice with breath work, it's there available for you as a tool. And similarly, you can use it, ahead of some kind of challenging, exercise or activity when you want to fire yourself up and be ready and be energized.
Brilliant. Cheers, Benjamin. And if anyone's interested in finding out more about you or getting in touch, how do they do that?
Yes, so I'm online at Program Wellness, which is my main website, and it's my Instagram, and I'm available on LinkedIn as Benjamin K. Richardson as well. Love to connect with people. I always start out any kind of new potential engagement with a client with a free discovery call where I'm just really interested to hear about, what are your problems and what are your goals. And then I'll tell you whether I can help you or not. And if I can't, I'll tell you that. And if I can help you find somebody else instead, I'll do that. So ultimately, I just like to have a great conversation like this one with you, Adam.
Brilliant. Well, I really appreciate your time today, Benjamin. Love what you're doing, love your journey. Thanks very much for joining me.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me, Adam.
Pleasure.